Hey everyone, welcome to 996 Howl for the uninitiated. This is an unedited YouTube vlog discussing everything Arizona Coyotes. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, when I say John Chayka is a monster, he really is. He's pointing out all the stops on these trades, on these draft choices, and now on these contract signings. Today he signs Clayton Keller for 8 years, $7.1 million. A huge, big boy contract for such a prepubescent boy. But he's our boy. He's our leading point scorer the past 2 years in his only 2 years in the NHL. And it's going to be a tough one to swallow. Let's jump into it. A lot to unpack. Going to see it right now. Keep in mind the contract will kick in 2 seasons from now. So not this upcoming season. Still got 1 more year at about $800K, and then it'll kick in his 4th year of the NHL. So I think it's a bit too much right now. Not sure why. I can see why. I'll get into it, but you know, I feel like Chayka could have waited 1 more season to really see if this sophomore season that Keller just had was a fluke and how big he bounces back. But on the other hand, if he bounces back huge with the additions of Schmaltz and Kessel on the team, and especially on the power play, maybe he becomes too good. And then with the whole RFA situation happening right now in this offseason, it could have pushed Keller to long negotiations and tiring talks, and maybe Keller opting for a 5-year contract type bridge like Matthews and Sebastian Aho have made very popular and have kind of ruined the landscape a bit for the RFAs. So John Chayka, you know what? He chooses that right now with a year left in Keller's ELC. He'll lock him up for 8 years, which is huge because there's rarely any Coyotes player who are staying on the team past 2 years. So to get Keller committed for 8 years is a great sign that he loves the team. He loves what's happening. He's happy with the coaches, happy with the locker room, happy with Chayka, happy with Arizona. So it's such a great sign to see. You know, this team has not seen a long contract like this, excluding OEL, Schmaltz, Dvorak, and Chychrun. Like, that's all John Chayka is doing in the past year. But before that, it was just Goligoski that signed a 5-year contract. And before then, I can't even remember the longest multi-year contract the Coyotes have signed because, you know, ownership issues and relocation rumors, and just it's been a whole debacle the past, 7 years. So it's finally good that Chayka is getting stability. He's getting that core in, and you could visibly see which players Chayka likes and is going to be the core of this team. There's only 7 players on this team on a contract longer than 2 years. On the forward front, you got Schmaltz at 7 more years at $5.8 million. Dvorak at 6 more years at $4.4 million. You got Keller, who just recently signed, and then Kessel, who they acquired for 3 more years. And then on defensive side, you got OEL at 8 years and Chychrun at 6 years, $4.6 million. So you got Chychrun, OEL, then you have Keller, Schmaltz, Dvorak, who are going to be here for the long haul, and then for the next 3 years, you got Kessel added in there. So, subtract Kessel, that's your core, that's your Coyotes core, and I'm pretty happy with that. Keller and Schmaltz are good, skilled guys with high IQ. Dvorak's a 2-way centerman who's defensively reliable, could play the PK, great face-off guy. OEL, a captain, a leader on the team, a stand-up human. And Chychrun, who works out like a beast, is so determined to be better and improve every season. He's got that offensive upside, can play the power play, and is just only going to get better. So I like these core guys that Chayka has signed long-term. Looking ahead, I do not think Keller's contract is going to be a cap problem for the Coyotes. As I just mentioned, there's only 7 players signed after 2 years. So next year is going to be the tightest year for the team, but they don't have many restricted free agents that are expiring. It's just Christian Fischer and Vinny Hinostroza. So those are 2 guys you could get on a bargain You're looking at Fisher to get about a Kraus deal, and Hinestroza probably slightly higher, but not demanding too much. And I forgot Kraus was a 7th player on that core. Kraus is signed for 3 years, so he'll expire at the same time as Kessel. So adding Kraus in that crop of players I mentioned. But I think after next season, after this season coming up and the next season, there's so many players exiting this team that are on high cap hits. You got Goligoski, Hjalmarsson, Derek Stepan, not to mention Carl Soderberg will expire at the end of this upcoming season as well. So that's like $25 million coming off the books, plus Hosa's coming off the books. So that's about $30 million to spend after these core guys have been signed after next season. So a lot of money to play with. I'm not saying all those guys I mentioned like Stepan, Goligoski, Hjalmarsson, Soderberg aren't going to re-sign, but it's highly likely that Chayka won't re-sign them. Maybe Stepan for a cheaper deal, but he's not going to re-sign Stepan at $6 million, and neither is Goligoski. And I think Hjalmarsson's at the end of the road. I love Hjalmarsson. We'll see how much he's got left in the tank. He's going to be really hard to replace, harder than Goligoski. But I think their time's up, and by the time their time is up, a lot of money is going to come available to Chayka and start making more moves while still having the core intact. So these are moves you have to make after a rebuild, and coming out of rebuild, you got to start building your core and sign them for long term. And this franchise has not seen a long-term core in over 10 years. I honestly can't remember like I said, the longest long-term contract I can remember from the Don Maloney era is Goligoski. So, I mean, Chayka's doing what needs to be done in a rebuild, creating that core, everyone knowing who the core players are, hoping they excel at the performance that Sean Chayka is betting on. And I know Keller's a bit of a risky bet, but I mean, to be the leading point getter on such a abysmal, injury-ridden, offensively inept team at 47 points, he's only going to get better. I mean, we saw him and Schmaltz together, point per game pace, adding in Kessel, adding in all that depth that was injured last season. It's only going to alleviate pressure off Keller. And I think it will look really good in about 2 or 3 years, as soon as 2 years. It's not, I doubt the first year of the contract it will look good, but I think the second year of his contract and further, it's going to look really good. He's John Chayka's first ever draft pick in the NHL. He's highly touted him since he's drafted him. He passes the eye test. He has such a high hockey IQ. He's a great playmaker. He's an elite playmaker. He's just got to have more confidence and more balance on his stick, on his skating, and I think he'll be worth that amount of money. What's funny is that this is going to cause a huge kerfuffle with the current RFAs that need to be signed this season. So, like a Brock Besser type. Brock Besser obviously demands more money than Keller, and so Besser's going to look at Keller's contract and be like, I know I'm owed way more than $7 million, so give me 9. And Vancouver Canucks are going to be handcuffed and kind of have to give it to him, or give him a bridge deal and then lose him once Besser produces even more, which he probably will, because he's a special skilled player, better than Keller. And Besser won the Calder Cup the year Keller was nominated. Am I right? I probably got that wrong. Don't quote me on that. I think, no, Besser was injured for most of his Calder season, but he still managed to get 60 points. I don't know if he won or not. Just let's imagine I never said that. But Besser obviously is going to demand more money than Keller and deserves more money than Keller. It's just that now Vancouver is either going to give him a $6 million bridge or $8 million 4 or 5 year contract, as opposed to handing him out an 8-year, $8 million contract like they probably wanted. So John Chayka got ahead of all these signings, signing Keller for 8 years, having Keller for 9 more years. I mean, he's a very special young forward that the team needs, and to have him for 9 years is great. and him and Schmaltz could start generating that chemistry for the next 7 years, which is as long as Schmaltz signed for. So all good signs. A bit pricey in the beginning, but it's only 1 or 2 seasons, and then if that, and then all this money is coming off the books in his first year of that contract. So it's not going to strap the Coyotes too much, and there's no real downside. If Keller still produces at 40-point pace, I mean, at least he's skilled enough to make those 40 points. It's impossible for him to score 40 points consistently. Like, on such a bad team last year, he still managed 47, so about 50 points. And so this team's only going to get better. The team's not regressing the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm bullish on this contract. Let's see what happens. Chayka's bullish as well, and I'm okay with it. That's all I got to say. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support.